had someone ask me in a comment about why I'm living off grid down in Texas, or why I'm planning on doing that. They understand the getting away from the cold, but what else is involved in it? What's my thinking? And I thought we'd talk about that a little bit. I am Semi-Retired Bob. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. What you're watching is you're watching me walk. I know that doesn't seem super exciting, but when you consider the fact that 2.5 years ago I couldn't do this, I could barely stand up for a couple minutes without severe pain, it becomes a bit more interesting. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. It means a lot that you spend just a few moments of your day with me. I would like to ask y'all to help me out just a little bit. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Drop down in the comments and say, "Hi, Bob." And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. All these things help me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. I'm 61 years old. I'm doing things I couldn't do when I was 40. It is a nice, bright, sunny day here in Omaha, Nebraska. It's only about 26 degrees out right now. And it's supposed to get a lot colder over the next week. So we'll see what happens. But this is the No Excuses Walking Challenge. So I'm out here every day, regardless of the weather. I do have to confess. I missed. Well, I did walk some, but I didn't get very far yesterday because I made a mistake. You'll notice I'm going up that hill that I usually walk really fast up, but I'm going a little slower today because, I'm always saying if you do a new exercise, to take it slow and easy so you don't hurt yourself. I wasn't actually doing a new exercise. I was doing squats. But one of the squats I've been doing is I've been holding onto the back of a chair and putting my legs about shoulder width apart and working on squatting a little lower. That's supposed to loosen up my knees over time, and it has been working. But I was close enough I could feel my feet underneath my rear end. I could tell I was getting close. And I pushed a little more than I should have. I didn't bounce hard, but I bounced a little bit. And I got all the way down. But then when I came back up, I could feel my left knee just screaming at me. So I got to about right here. I didn't even make it all the way up to the stop sign. And I turned around and went home yesterday. But as you can see, my knee is much better today. So it's not like I did a really bad. I don't think I hurt it really bad. But I did manage to mess it up a little bit. So I didn't go quite as fast up that hill as I normally do. Now, before we talk about a few of my reasons for wanting to be out in the middle of nowhere and starting a homestead and doing all that stuff, I thought we'd talk about a subject that keeps coming up over and over and over again in chats. And that's the use of statins and other cholesterol lowering medications. everybody gets so freaked out. They go to their doctor and they get what the doctor calls 150, 200, even 250. Oh, that's dangerously high. You're going to have a heart attack tomorrow. You got to take this statin to get that down. That's crap. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. But the lipid hypothesis is just that. It's a hypothesis. I think I've covered it pretty well in previous videos, but I wanted to go over it again because I always have new viewers, and there are always people out there that are just ready to throw in the towel because they think they've been told their cholesterol is too high. And I talked about this, it'll be 2 years ago, coming up in January, that I fell on trail. There's a really good short of that out there, by the way, if you want to go watch me fall. I had the bob cam on and took a tumble. But what I was talking about that day was this huge study. Professor K had talked about it, and Dr. Ken Berry had talked about it. And I was bringing it to your attention that day when I fell on trail about a huge multi-billion years of follow-up. It was like 168 countries. Now again, it's all associative data, and we all know associative data can't project cause and effect. So we can't say that this is definitely going to prove one thing or another. But what the data did show is under a total cholesterol under 220, the incidence of all-cause mortality rose sharply. And there's a whole big breakdown of all the categories. And the interesting one is that if you look at the chart, lowering cholesterol from 220 down to 120, which is about where they're trying to get you. Well, nowadays they want to get your total cholesterol as low as they can possibly get it with these drugs that lower you down even more than statins do. But the difference between 220 and 120, the incidence, notice I didn't say cause or effect or anything like that, the incidence of heart disease, heart attacks, death by heart disease in this study that was 168 countries. I said I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was multi-billion person year follow-up because there were a lot of people in this 168 country study. The incidence of heart disease in that group went up by almost 4 times. Now, can we say that that's definitely what caused it all? Well, no, because all those millions of people were not locked in a lab, which is where nutrition science falls short. We don't know what they were eating, what they were doing activity-wise. We don't know any of that stuff. What we do know is that they came in at semi-regular periods and had their cholesterol levels checked. That's all they did. They checked lipid panel, and added that data to the study. So while it's not cause and effect, it does appear that the sweet spot for all-cause mortality, as well as every other mortality cause on their individual lines, 220 to 260 is about the sweet spot. That's the lowest point on the graph. As you go down from there, all of the lines go up into a greater instance of all-cause mortality. And they think the reason it goes up a little bit higher than about the 260 mark is because at the time of the study, you didn't see that many people with lipids higher than that, which makes the data go wonky, as opposed to anything that you can actually even draw inference from. But that's my understanding of it. So the bottom line to all this is that lower cholesterol is not a good thing. And that's even if the statins didn't have all of those side effects. You know, we all know, I know personally about the muscle pain and the decreased neurofunction. I can tell that my brain was not working very well. I couldn't tell it at the time, but now that I'm out from underneath that fog of statins, I can tell it very well that I was in not such a good way. The wind's a little on the chilly side. I may have to get my scarf out as it gets a little bit colder, because the only thing on me right now that's getting a little bit cold, well, my hands are a little bit on the cold side because I'm only wearing those light blue gloves, but I have much heavier gloves that I will get out and start wearing as the temperature drops even more this week. And my neck is a little cold. And as I turn back towards the sun and get the wind off to the side, it should get a little better. But anyway, gosh, we're 13 minutes into the video and I haven't even talked about today's topic yet. But very briefly, yes, avoiding the cold weather as I get older is a big part of why I want to do this thing in Texas or any place where it's warmer. But I could do that just about anywhere if I wanted to. Move somewhere warm and get an apartment or do whatever. But that's not what I want to do, because the types of places I could afford in warmer climates, I wouldn't be able to have chickens or goats or anything else like that. And one of the big motivators, if these last 4 years have taught us anything, is that we can't actually rely on anybody else but ourselves. Am I saying I expect a huge event to knock out the grid and make the grocery stores go empty? Probably not. But what if they do? I know I sound like a crazy person, but what if all of that happens? What if you go to the grocery store to get a dozen eggs and there aren't any? What if you go to the grocery store to get some meat and there isn't any? Well, I have chickens and goats and maybe some sheep, maybe some rabbits, maybe even some pigs, it doesn't take very many of those animals to where if something bad happens, it wouldn't take very many of them to keep me alive for a really long time. I mean, I figure one goat and one sheep and a couple of chickens could keep me fed for a whole year. If I had enough land and enough water to raise a cow, one cow cut up and put in my freezer would probably last me a little over a year just by myself. And that's really what this off-grid project is all about. Besides the actual fun of doing all this stuff. You know, I've spent basically my entire life not living, slowly getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And now that I won't say I'm healthy, but I'm not taking any prescription medications, most of the time I can get out here and walk every day, regardless of the weather. Is that I did get out and walk a little bit yesterday, but it wasn't very darn far. Because my knee really hurt yesterday after that deep squat. But here I am today in about 25-degree weather, walking and talking and having a good time. And I think building up a place to call my own from scratch, from nothing, would be a very fun way to spend my senior years. I know, Bob, you're only 61, you got plenty of time left. Well, maybe, maybe not. You know, I had a triple bypass surgery when I was 55. And my cardiac markers have gotten better, a lot better, since starting the carnivore diet. And being able to do this walking and exercise helps that as well. But I don't know what tomorrow means. I don't know if I'm going to get tomorrow. So I'm going to do everything I can now to live. What's that old saying? It's not the years in your life, but the life in your years. I won't say I'm trying to make up for lost time, because once that time is gone, you can't get it back. But I can certainly do some serious amount of living now with whatever time I happen to have left. It could be a day, could be a month, it might be another 20 years. That's what I'm hoping for, but nobody knows. So I guess the whole point of today's message is to live each day like it's your last, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. Don't put off whatever it is you wanted to do. Just get out there and do it. Like walking in the cold. But anyway, there's some shade over there. I have to have some shade to be able to see my camera to flip it around. So I'm going to walk up this side street just a little bit till I get in the shade of this house. And then I can see what I'm doing with my phone. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip it around and show you guys the rest of the walk. I'll see you when we get back up to the house. For now, let's listen to some Christmas music. Okay, cut the music. Thank you. Yes, this is just one lap around the big loop for now. I want to see how my knee reacts. I'm hoping to get back out and get at least 3 or 4 more laps in later. But for now, I'm going to call it a morning. When I come back out, I'm going to get my heavier gloves and I'm going to get my scarf and face guard out because that wind is on the nippy side. But anyway, I've talked about this a lot, and I'm going to say it again now for those of you in the back that can't hear as well. You know, I already talked about it's not about the years in your life, but the life in your years. And I can tell you with absolute clarity of thought that even if you came up with stacks and stacks of legitimate research that said I was going to die sometime in the next few months because of the way I'm eating, I would not change anything, because I remember what my life was like 2.5 years ago. Can we even call it a life if all you can do is stand up and barely make it to the kitchen, barely make it back to the couch? I don't think that's actual life. So I will take what's here, regardless of how much time I've got left. Don't take statins. Statins are contraindicated metabolic poison. Plain and simple. You can say whatever you want about that. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. But statins are poisoning your body. I don't care how high your cholesterol is. If you don't take my word for it, and I hope you don't, but go look at some of the other really good doctors out there. Dr. Berry, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Baker, Professor K, Dr. Fung, Dr. Mason. The list goes on and on and on. And they will all tell you, not in so many words, because they want to keep their medical license. There are certain things they're not allowed to say. I'm here to say, because I'm just an old retired truck driver, I'm allowed to say, I don't think it matters how high your cholesterol gets. In fact, I believe the higher it gets, the more protected you are against disease. Since, you know, it's not like cholesterol is used for absolutely everything in our body, from cell structure to hormone levels to everything else. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is. It's used for absolutely everything in the body. Cholesterol is required. Lowering it can't be a good thing. But anyway, hopefully some of what I said today made sense. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you in the next one.